Hi, this is George Howard for Artist House Music, and this is Music Publishing 101. So you record a song, you write one, it's an original song, it doesn't have any samples in it or anything like that. You write it down, you record it into a boombox, and guess what? You have the copyright on that song. And with that copyright, you get a whole assortment of rights that go along with it. You get to display it, you get to distribute it, you get to sell it. And you have these exclusive rights. And publishing is really concerned with this process, how you deal with this copyright that you now got once you recorded a song, be it the registration of the copyright, the exploitation, or the collection of the money that you generate from it. And that's what publishing is in a nutshell. I do want to start this off by introducing Donald Passman, who speaks very eloquently about different types of royalty streams. I think it's helpful to break these down right at the very beginning. So here's Don on royalty streams.
Whenever a record is sold, there are two distinct sets of rights that have to be taken care of. One is for the physical recording, the artist that actually sings on the record. The other is for the songwriter, the person who wrote the song, who may not be the same person as the artist, often isn't. So let's break them down. The artist is paid by the record company. They get a royalty that's based on, essentially these days, the wholesale price that the retailer has paid for the record. The person that wrote the song gets something called a mechanical royalty, and mechanical comes from the 1909 Copyright Act, where songs used to be mechanically reproduced. They haven't been mechanically reproduced for 60 years, but the name stuck, and therefore that's what they're called as mechanicals these days. In terms of a record royalty, it's all over the place depending on your bargaining power, but the range is generally somewhere in between 12% to 18% for most artists, sometimes going up over 20% for superstars. For mechanicals, the United States and Canada are the only countries in the world that don't pay a percentage of the wholesale price for mechanicals. The United States and Canada pay on a per song basis, currently 9.1 cents in the United States for each song, although one of the things that goes into a record contract is that the record companies want to pay 3/4 of that rate as opposed to the full rate, on the simple theory that they have the bargaining power and you don't.
There are royalties that are paid to the songwriter, the person who has written the songs, and then there's a different type of royalty that is paid to the person that performs the song. And in this course, and publishing in general, is concerned with the former, the royalty paid to the songwriter, not to the performer. It's the person that wrote the song, whether or not this person performed it on the record. Publishing is all about the writing of the song and the exploitation of the song and the collection of the money for that song, not the performance. And songwriters receive the following royalties here. They receive mechanical, synchronization royalties, performance, and special use. They also receive print potentially, and I'll talk about that as well. Mechanicals. This can be a bit confusing, but it's really important that you understand this. You write a song, or a label signs you and puts the record out that has that song that you wrote on it. Whether or not you performed the song on the record or not, you wrote it. Every time that record is sold as either a CD or as a download, you receive a royalty as a songwriter. So this seems a little strange now, I guess, at a time when most performers also write their songs. But think about Frank Sinatra, for example. He didn't write any of his songs. So anytime he released a record, all those people that wrote those songs got paid mechanical royalties. Now, when Beck puts out a record and he wrote the song and he performed it, he gets a mechanical royalty, and he also gets an artist royalty. But the key thing to remember here is that whether you write the song or not, when a song is downloaded or when a song is sold, whoever put that download out, be it a label or whatever, they owe the writer a mechanical royalty. The next stream of income for a writer is a synchronization. If your song gets used in a movie or a commercial or a TV show, you get paid by the producer of whoever put that movie together for the right to put your music in sync with their moving images. That's all it is. Performance is confusing. I wish it was referred to as broadcast, because that's much more accurate. You're a songwriter, your song gets played on the radio, on public airwaves, a royalty is generated. And it's not plausible for every radio station to pay directly to the songwriter, so what they do instead is they pay blanket license fee to the performance rights organizations, ASCAP, BMI, or CSAC, and then these performance rights organizations monitor the playing of the songs on the airwaves and pay out to their affiliated members. So it's real important for you to affiliate with one of these performance rights organizations, so that when your songs do get played on the radio or on TV, you get paid. Special use would be something like karaoke or video games. If you're a songwriter and your song gets used in a video game, you got to get paid. And then, as I said, print is an additional royalty stream, where if your songs are used in a songbook or in like a Guitar Player magazine or something, they do the transcription. You get paid if you're the songwriter. The process to this is really one of registering your songs, and it's important to register with the Library of Congress. Even though you get the copyright as soon as you create the song, registering with the Library of Congress gives you much more of a chance to prevail should there be a dispute. If someone claims to have written the song before you did, for instance, if you're the one that registered, you will likely win. And it's also important to register with the PRO with whom you're affiliated, be it ASCAP, BMI, or CSAC, so that when your songs get played on the air, on the radio, you get paid. Exploitation is all the things we just mentioned, be it on a CD, download, on a ringtone in a video game. Getting out there, getting that song used is a big part of publishing. And then collecting, not as easy as you would think. Getting the money for these mechanical royalties out of record labels isn't necessarily an easy process. In future lessons, we'll talk about ways in which you can make sure you do get all that is due to you. So just a summary to this brief introductory lesson. The music business is changing, as we all know, but the constant will be publishing. Even if CDs go completely away, there'll still be mechanicals, there'll still be synchronization, there'll still be performance royalties. And as an artist or as someone who works with artists, it's imperative that you understand how publishing works and how you can use it not only to generate money, but also to generate interest and audiences in your career.
I've frequently been asked the question, when did I decide to own my own publishing? And I think that the best way to answer that is to make clear to any songwriter or anybody else who's interested in this that you own your own publishing the moment you write the song. The question is when and if you're going to give up a piece of your publishing. That's very important because, without being too technical about it, the notion of a publisher, a music publisher, owning half of a song is kind of ludicrous to me. It's an artificial business division that has its roots deep, deep, deep in the murky history of the business going back to the early 1800s. Later on, with much more success under my belt, but with the need to support my family with a more constant income, I went back to the major publishing world and had a couple of relationships that were really good and earned me a lot of money in advances, which I'm happy to say, all of which I'm happy to say I recouped, but it gave me a consistent income when I needed one. Now I'm back to publishing myself again. It's an up and down experience, but you know, when you get something that works in the marketplace, you own all of it. And it's very rewarding, not just financially, in every way. Anybody will tell you, any expert will tell you, people who know much more than I will say, boy, if you can hold on to your publishing, do it. You can just get somebody to collect for you. You can work out different relationships of exploitation. There's so many different ways to do it. But you're really getting the fruits of your labor that way.
You know, there are so many writers that I know that have gotten publishing, been signed to publishing companies from inception. And remember what a publisher does. The publisher is, you sign with the publisher a contract, and it's for a certain amount of time. It could be a single song deal, it could be an exclusive deal where they have everything that you write for a certain period of time. It could be just an administration deal where they just administer your catalog, they don't actually own it. But it's really you're assigning ownership or co-ownership to a publisher, and what they're supposed to do is exploit your works. They're supposed to get, maybe possibly get you a record deal, which through a development deal possibly. They want to get your songs cut by other artists. They want to get your songs into film and television uses. if advertising commercials, if a lot of them have departments that are film and TV departments, or the advertising commercial departments. The people going out there with the catalog, trying to convince the advertisers or film and TV companies, producers, music supervisors, whomever, to use your stuff in the movie and to show them how that your composition fits into their mix. But a lot of the advertising world, it's obviously most of it is prior hit songs or standards that are being used in commercials. But still, somebody let's say you wrote the Love Boat theme, and if a cruise line, let's say Carnival, may have forgotten that the Love Boat theme is out there, and they're looking for a commercial. If you as a publisher have gone to them or to the advertising agent and said, "We've got the Love Boat theme. This would be perfect for Carnival or any other cruise line," it'd put them into their head. I said, "Hey, that's a real good idea," because there's a natural fit. That's what advertising commercials, that you really look for natural fits on the whole thing. But publishers are supposed to be exploiting. They're supposed to be collecting your money from you from all these different areas. To try to do this yourself is very difficult. When you look at all the different areas of income, it's not easy, and people can, the foreign area alone. You want a publisher who has good foreign companies or good foreign representation, sub-publishers that are associated with them, because they're collecting your money from the local performance rights organization, from the local mechanical rights organization, and outside the U.S. And if you're in foreign language countries, let's say you're an English-speaking writer, and you have, and obviously all your songs are in English, or at least most of them. If they're being exploited outside the U.S. and they change the title of those songs, or they put them in a French movie or a German movie with a foreign language title, it's difficult sometimes to track that stuff down. So you've got to have good representation throughout the world for your stuff. So there are a lot of things a publisher does. I mean, Jeff, we explain it in our book in great detail. But they're exploiting your compositions in the best sense of the word. They're not exploiting you, hopefully. They're exploiting the composition. They're collecting your money and they're paying you on time. And they're paying you accurately. So that's what you really want from a publisher. And if you can't get that, I mean, a lot of writers, some bigger writers, they'll be with a publisher for years, and then they'll either have their own company or they'll do it 100% themselves. They might get other publishing company to administer their catalog, meaning the other company doesn't own it, but they'll exploit it and they'll collect all the money, but they'll charge a lesser fee. Could be 5%, could be 10%, whatever the fee is. But the major writer still owns all their compositions. A lot of bands will own their own publishing because they're the major source of their exploitation. They're performing it, other people aren't cutting it, so they're really exploiting it themselves. And if other people, if they become successful, then they'll hire somebody to try to push it for radio, for film, television, and video game uses, ringtone uses, anything like that. So sometimes you will have writers. There's law firms out there who also have administrators within the law firm who administer the copyrights of their clients. You also have just big publishing administration firms out there who are not co-publishers, but they're really almost like business managers in a sense. They're doing everything a publisher does, but they're collecting the money. They're very good at collecting money because they know the intricacies of the accounting and business practices throughout the industry. So a lot of different ways you can do this whole thing when you're talking about music publishing.
The broadest definition, I think, is the acquisition and exploitation of songs. But what it specifically means historically is somewhat different than what it is currently. Historically, publishers started as song pluggers. They'd travel around to live performers and give them sheet music and plug them with this idea that they should play this piece of sheet music on their show. And eventually that changed into giving them songs to record when the music business started selling 78s, because money's generated every time a record is sold, and money's generated every time a record is played on the air. And the source of the music business is the song. Without the song, you don't have anything to perform, and with nothing to perform, you have no artist to do anything. So to me, it's always been the source of the industry. it's a partnership with the songwriter or songwriters, effectively. It's some level of a partnership. The traditional music publisher historically worked with the songwriters, gave them a home, a business home, provided them with opportunities to write material, gave them guidance in writing material, and then attempted to get that material recorded by certain recording artists. So it was a collaboration in the earlier days. Eventually, when songwriters recognized that the business was changing, publishers also recognized that around the time that self-contained groups and recording artists who wrote their own songs didn't need that much outside material. So different relationships sprung up with the music publisher, in which to a large degree they became protectors of the rights, the administrators, and ensured proper collections for record sales and performing rights. Airplay, uses in movies and television were accounted and collected correctly. Well, I think from the collaborative songwriter and sometimes publishers, good publishers can really help the songwriters. Yeah, solve some of the problems musically they have. If they stumble into a bridge, or if they're having a problem opening up a chorus properly, if they've got a lyric which is about a positive subject and the melody is a minor melody and they can't figure out why it doesn't seem to work together. Sometimes the publisher or the collaborating songwriter can analyze it and help solve the problem.
Our contracts have terms with our writers, and the term is just one of several moving parts in the agreement. And when we choose to represent a writer and a writer chooses us to be represented, the key elements of that agreement is how many songs are they giving us, which is called the Schedule A. Are they giving us one song or multiple songs? What's the duration of the ownership of that? How many years are we going to own it in perpetuity for the life of copyright? Another important element is if there's going to be a reversion of that copyright. Oftentimes, a writer will ask a publisher to enter into a situation, and they'll grant the publisher a specified term of years, 6 years, 8 years, 10 years, at which point the copyright returns back, reverts to the songwriter. Some publishers aren't so happy about reversions. Writers seek reversions, but that's an interesting element. Certainly, generally the territory is for the world. You usually represent songwriters for the world. And what the ownership is, whether you're entering into a co-publishing, is the publisher getting 50% or 100% or an admin? So those are the key elements in a songwriter-publisher agreement. Publishers seek to own the song outright in perpetuity. Publishers really want to have 100% of the publishing for the life of copyright. And life of copyright now is life of the composer plus 70 years. It's not a comfortable situation for a publisher to say, hi, I want to enter into a short-term lease of the song and revert it back to you, especially if publishers do the heavy lifting. Hi, we're going to pitch it, we're going to get Bonnie Raitt to record your song, we're going to get Celine Dion to record your song, we're going to place it in film and TV, and it's going to have income streams, and yet then the ownership of the song reverts. That's not a comfortable situation for publishers. Writers, on the other hand, seek the reversion, and that's part of this, the moving parts in this negotiation on what's going to feel right, what's going to incentivize both parties.